What did Mario say when Luigi asked him how to avoid the turtle?
What?
Dua Lipa. This is Pop Etymology. I'm Russell Perkle.
I'm Hannah, and I am also on the podcast.
Podcast, baby. Hannah, make them laugh with it. Come on, everybody looking for some headphones to
okay,
listen
yeah,
on.
Come on. All right, I love the hype. What's brown and sticky? Stick.
I just thought I would give a little, instant start, intro thing, just like Dababy did in our song today. What song did we do today, Hannah?
So today we decided to cover the classic Dua Lipa song, Levitating.
Classic,
it is back
wow.
on the charts.
What would you say makes this a classic song?
I don't know. It's just very Dua Lipa to me. From what I know of Dua Lipa, which admittedly is not so much, but it's a very... how would you describe the song before Dababy got his hands on it?
Well, I would say it's an okay song, and there are some interesting things about it that I want to talk about, but on the other hand, it's kind of bland. There's not anything very exciting or strange or interesting about it. And while, of course, we have our opinions about this, just the general idea of someone featuring on a song and re-releasing a song, but in some way, I think it's an improvement in that while I would not say it makes the song itself more fun, it makes talking about the song, your response to the song more fun, And I was even, of course, this is going to sound very pretentious, but I think this is maybe this is what postmodernism is, It's like this idea of like artwork, but then the secondary experience of reacting to the artwork, right? Reacting to the thing, right? I mean, it's literally what we're doing now. We're essentially just like a glorified YouTube reaction video,
We're cogs in the machine. That's so meta. Oh my god.
We are indeed. We're like the machine that is built to witness the machine or something,
So, Levitating is an ostensible love song about Dua Lipa, I'm going to call her, the protagonist of the song, saying that she is super into this guy.
Does she love him, you think, or she just wants to dance with him a lot?
I got real big dance vibes. I didn't get a real strong soul to soul connection, but I think that is because she called him Sugar Boo.
Oh, sure, yeah. You don't call someone Sugar Boo unless you really love them.
No, that's where I'm coming down on the opposite. You don't call somebody Sugar Boo if you respect them.
Your parents don't call each other Sugar Boo?
It is the most embarrassing possible thing that I could think of to call somebody, and just having the knowledge that there are people who it's almost like, all right, so Russ, you are Aloe. I am I'm a romantic. I don't date. It's frankly kind of gross. So you do date. And I've met your girlfriend, and she's lovely and wonderful. Would you call her Sugar Boo?
No, I don't think so. And I don't think I have the self confidence. I don't have the brashness to call anybody Sugar Boo. But I was also thinking, if someone called me Sugar Boo, if my girlfriend did or something, I would feel like are they making fun of me? Is this a joke to them? Is our relationship a joke to you? Are they being sarcastic or ironic right now, So yeah, it would really raise a lot of questions and, if anything, just disrupt my whole happy life that I have here.
So I have this theory that there is a breed of aloe rose, and it's not all of them, but there is definitely enough aloe rose who seem to make a sport out of embarrassing nicknames for their significant others. And to that end, I have actually prepared a generator for your new embarrassing nickname for Tiana.
Okay.
It's 2D12. All right. Are you ready for this?
Sure.
Your new nickname for Tiana is Sugar Darling.
That's not bad at all.
Let's see what else I can get you. How about Gushy and Cream?
Gushy and Cream?
Yes.
Yeah, that's like the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. This should be your new no, that's it. We gotta save some because we have to talk about the song.
Don't worry, I'm saving all of them, and I'm actually we are going to put the generator on the website.
Oh yeah, great idea. Yeah.
popetymology.com, which is a new website.
Yeah, we'll mention again at the end, but yeah, that's popetymology.com. You can go there to find, of course, links to the episodes and also some articles on related topics.
Or new things to call your Tender Boo.
Yeah, your Tinder boo. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a boo that you met on Tinder. Like, your relationship only... It never moves beyond this, Tinder level. It only exists on Tinder.
Tender, super soft, kind of
What about,
cakes?
Tenter hooks. It could be your Tenter boo.
Ooh, yeah. If you were, a real camping couple.
Or you just had, hooks for hands. Or she had hooks for hands.
Oh.
Call your Tenter boo.
Oh, okay. Well, that introduces a new dynamic, and I don't know that it's the most flattering or sweet romantic gesture to make your pet name her hook hands, but that's...
Well, we're treading into very very problematic waters here, very treacherous.
I really don't
so we should probably
anybody's yum, but your girlfriend is more than just her hooks, okay?
It's true. Yeah, it's more than their boo as well. Which part of the person is the boo? You think?
Is the boo?
Yeah.
I imagine your heart, because when you scream boo, that's what feels like is going to jump out of your chest.
Oh, you think it's the heart responding yes?
Yes, what's that?
Yes.
You called?
So tell me about your did you like the song? Do you like it?
It is definitely an empty song. Which is okay. It's its own... it was definitely written by a music exec who had a deadline at 5 in the morning. I am completely aware of that.
Okay. So finally, on the podcast, acknowledging that people are not writing their own songs. Nice. We're making some progress here.
Okay, if she wrote it, then that's okay, but...
I mean, she very well might have. It isn't as... It isn't as if it's anything that she could not write. I think Dua Lipa could write this song if she felt so inclined.
I think a couple of people could have written this song. I think that there are people in Congress who could have written this song. It's not a very difficult song to write.
And so, Hannah, you listened to the version with Dua Lipa, just Dua Lipa, and the version with Dua Lipa and Dababy. What do you think? Which is the better song? What changes? How do you feel about Dababy in this song?
So I am of the opinion that songs, unless you're covering another song from 1950 or whatever, they're products of their time. They don't really need to be redone, and they especially don't need to be redone 3 years after they're made.
Is it 3 years, really? I thought this was a super current song.
It is now. It's just back up on the charts after. It was released in, I believe, 2017.
Wow, no, I had no idea.
It's back on the charts now because Dababy came onto the scene and decided to hype Dua Lipa up. And that's basically my feelings on when people release remixes with guest stars.
Pretty much.
It's basically like if an artist came over to your house and looked at your beautiful paintings and was like, hey, cool painting, I'm gonna doodle on it and now it's our painting.
And it isn't as if Dababy just showed up at Dua Lipa's barbecue. I mean, I think they had some kind of an agreement. I don't think he rapped against her will. Although,
Oh, no, I don't even think she showed up to work that day. I think she was like, okay, here's the track, do with it what you want. I am going to go sleep
you're
in my
suggesting
mansion.
there's some possibility that they may have re-recorded it. Because, well, they did make a video together. I don't know if you saw the video for this.
Oh, no, I didn't see the video. Did they dance together? Did they sing together?
Yeah, and funny you should ask, because they actually dance in an elevator, and then a whole bunch of other people come into the elevator as well. And again, it's made me think, like, okay, is this another, like, the pandemic is ending song, at this point?
How many times must the pandemic end before it's finally over?
I mean, I think this one might really do it. I think this one might be the thing to finally end it all.
Delta Who?
And, like, another thing I noticed, of course, watching the video, and even without the video, this is clearly a lot like the BTS song. It's very much like a dance song, It's like, especially the little baby part, he really sounds like he's trying to tell you how to do a dance, but he's not being very specific about it, But in the song, yeah, there's a dance,
He's not. And Russ, we're both white. We like it when people tell us what to do when we dance.
That's the only
we know
time
we're doing it right.
Yeah, I only dance whenever there's a song like telling me exactly which moves to do. Yeah.
And otherwise, how do you know you're doing it right?
Well.
So it is an ostensible love song, or a dance song, rather a coupling song. What do they call a love song that isn't so much about love as it is like being with somebody?
Well, I think this isn't so much about love, and as it is about like the fact that Dua Lipa is a high-level monk who has gained the ability to meditate such that she rises off the ground.
That is really, really impressive. Have we talked about how powerful Dua Lipa is?
I think it's forbidden. I don't think we're allowed to discuss it.
It is a forbidden art that we cannot know. So that actually leads into a little bit of what I researched today and what I prepared today.
And what did you research today, Hannah?
So I've noticed recently that spiritualism and this new agey kind of stuff is starting to come back into vogue, and it does that every couple of years. Sometimes they burn the witches, sometimes they celebrate the witches, but it goes through like a series of popularity ups and popularity downs.
Yeah, we saw this resurgence of vibe, right? This concept of vibing seems to be kind of a spiritual sort of thing.
Oh yeah.
Do you think they're burning the witches or celebrating the witches this time?
Oh yeah, I think we're celebrating the witches for sure. I think we are at that point where we are learning that the witches never did anything wrong at all, and the real monsters are the ones who burned them. So,
excepting maybe this song. This song was a real miss for the witches. Probably.
Dua Lipa is not full witch. I don't think. She plays around with witchy themes, but ultimately, if you asked her to set up an altar, I guarantee you she doesn't know where the crystals would go.
Way to gatekeep witching, Hannah.
I know, and I'm not even a witch. I'm just here to make sure nobody culturally appropriates Wicca. So, speaking of culturally appropriating Wicca and ancient theology, Dua Lipa does make mention of traveling the Milky Way, the galaxy, and headed to Mars.
As all witches do.
All witches do.
Great space travelers. Little known fact, Neil Armstrong, witch.
Oh, is he really? So, now let's start specifically with the planet Mars. Okay. The planet Mars is named for the Roman god Mars, who is the Greek god Ares, basically god of war. That's a story that basically everybody who was raised by the American public education system knows.
Yeah. month of March, also named after Mars.
Yeah. So Mars, very, very popular and very in the English language, pretty much all over the place.
Yeah.
Now, what I wanted to know, what we called Mars before Rome, before Greece even, because the planets have always been observed, and astronomy is one of the oldest sciences that we actually got right. We got it wrong for a very, 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 very long time, but first we got it right, a little bit more right, wrong, and then we got it super duper right. So you would think that the stars and indeed most of the celestial bodies would automatically follow that naming convention of deities and gods and goddesses.
Yeah.
Because they're basically they move in predictable ways. They seem untouchable, far away, and celestial, really. And you would be absolutely right. They have been named for gods and goddesses since at least Mesopotamia. So Mesopotamia, we talked a little bit about Mesopotamia last time when we were discussing how they used a base 60 system, which allowed for enormous and incredibly small mathematical calculations. So a lot of their math was actually pretty right, and their timekeeping is such that it's influenced our timekeeping today. So Mars was called Gugulana.
Gugulana?
Uh-huh. I want you to say it again and just feel how it feels in your mouth, because it feels so fun to say.
Gugulana.
Yeah, right?
I think we need to put like one randomly generated word with this to make it a new pet name. So roll the one die for whatever the modifier is.
Yeah. Okay. Gugulana butt.
Gugulana butt.
Yes. That.
What about the other direction? Roll the one that goes like first.
Yes. And that is Treasure Gugulana.
Treasured Gugulana. This is like something from like a Dollywood movie or something. And then like so it'd be like this guy, he's like trying to win the heart of treasured Gugulana, the like goddess of what?
So Gugulana was actually the god. He was the husband of...
gender's a construct, who cares?
Okay, who cares? He was actually the husband of Ereshkigal, who was the goddess of the dead.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And he is the god of what? Just being the husband? Is that his like power, being the husband of the god of the dead?
His whole power was actually being the husband and then very quickly getting killed. So he was Ereshkigal, the queen of the Netherworld, had a couple of husbands over her time. Gugulana was her first husband. He was killed by Enkidu in the story of the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. He was known as the Great Bull of Heaven, and he was flung into the stars after his death.
I hope I get flung into the stars after my death.
Well, you have to be the Great Bull of Heaven, and you have to piss off Enkidu, which isn't hard.
That's fair. I can handle it. It's fine. Mm-hmm. I don't mind. I mean, I don't want to be lazy after I die. I should do something.
May as well.
Yeah.
And then we come to India. India definitely predate. India has a history of astronomy at least 3,000 years long, but the Vedic period is the first written. It's the first time any of it was actually written down. And the very first tomes of astronomy for India were basically just ways to chart the sun and the moon for the purposes of ritual and religion. And after the 4th century, of course, they started to get influenced by Greek astronomy, and the Greeks were really taking a running leap at astronomy at the time. I will get to them in a second. But they definitely had a Proto-Greek Mars. The Proto-Greek Mars is, what was his name? Oh,
It's interesting to think about because I believe that for Greece it was a matter of navigation, right? I mean, you use the stars to navigate, so they pay a lot of attention to them for this reason. Otherwise, what does it matter? Like why were people so incredibly interested in what's up there?
And that's actually Indian astronomy actually is the whole cosmology. So everything above your head, absolutely everything, is the domain of the gods. The planet Mars was known as Mangara. Mangara is a god of aggression. And we believe that, or it seems to be the linguistic consensus, that it was assigned as the god of aggression post-Greek influence. Because the Greeks were the ones who really suggested that Ares be that god of Mars. So, and Ares, of course, being the god of war, god of aggression, everybody really started following that model, except the Chinese. And the Chinese always had this very logical way of looking at the skies. It's always been extremely timekeepy and useful stuff. So you don't see as much of the astral theology in the Chinese as you do in, say, the Mesopotamian, Indian, and the Egyptian, or the Mesoamerican astronomies. In Chinese, and by extension, Korean, Japanese, Vietnamese, and I believe Thai also, all have the same word for each of the planets, which is very useful if you ever get lost in the solar system, because all you have to do is know one language.
You just have to know one Asian person there in space with you.
Yeah.
And you're set.
You can, you just need to know somebody who can see the sign that says fire star, and then you'll know Mars. The Chinese always used, for timekeeping and for recording the dynasties and characterizing the dynasties as they rose and fell. So they have a very, very long history with the celestial bodies as well. I feel like I'm talking a lot.
That's good. It's the point. It's a podcast. You're supposed to talk a lot. Otherwise, it's very awkward for the people listening, mostly, because they're just like, "Is the podcast over? Is it still going?" So, in the eastern region, this China, Japan, Vietnam, Korea, etc., the word for Mars was something like fire star.
Yes, and in fact, the Chinese characters for each of the planets is traditionally used in even Vietnamese and even in Korean, despite the fact that they both use different written languages as well. Mars is known as the fire star. I believe Jupiter is known as the, I think it's the mud star. Uranus, no. Jupiter is the Great King Star. Mercury is known as the Water Star, interestingly enough, because it moves so quickly across. And that's an interesting parallel to Mercury, the god of lightning speed, quick feet dudes. At least we know that wherever you are in the world, the observations about the sky have pretty generally been consistent. The sciences have pretty much held up across cultures, which has been, I think that's extremely interesting, that one of mankind's first instincts is to look at and chart the skies. I love that.
Yeah, and it's interesting how, in terms of seasons, and we were talking about the counting system for time, how these particular things, they're so sticky, they cling so hard, they're so incredibly viral, such that usually the very early first ideas that people have about what to call this or how to count this, etc., they pretty much like stick around and spread, and nobody ever changes them. It's like many of our days of the week are named after gods that we don't particularly like follow or care about or even know the relationship of anymore. Same thing with months, of course, etc. But yet there's nobody has some idea of like, oh, let's adopt some other system or let's change it or something.
Yeah, and it's more like whenever the Greeks come in and Alexander the Great's like, hey, you must follow our new system. Why they would be more one-to-one culturally than just trying to be like, starting from a base of, see that shiny thing up there? I call that Aries. It would make sense that you would go from, see that shiny thing up there? That is the god of aggression. And that is a much easier a bridge to build than starting from anywhere else.
I do wonder, like, is there some reason why Mars was chosen to be called Mars, to be associated with the god of war and aggression and so on?
So, the best way that I can imagine, especially because this was named before we had telescopes, so we had a very different view of the skies then than we do now. Granted, now we have, even though we have the telescopes, a lot of us miss the bare, what the skies look like without any kind of light pollution. So back then it would have been easier to see. Mars is incredibly red.
Okay.
You can see it with your with your plain eyes. So the Islamic scientists actually called it Almaric. Almaric, it sounds like it could be related to Mars, but in fact it's not. Almaric, it means to rub, or specifically to rub the sap out of something, because when you rub it as your skin, it becomes that very red color. So
it's like named after like a rash, like if you like.
Yeah, basically somebody who got very itchy, and pretty much the Hebrews after that took on it. They call it Mamani, I believe. Mamadam.
This is a good pet name as well. Mamadam. This is like if you happen to be like a neckbeard or a incel, but you like much older women, you can call
tip the fedora, Mamadam. Which actually means the blushing one.
See, perfect. Yeah, we gotta tell our incel friends as soon as possible. First, we have to make some incel friends.
It's impossible. It's just can't be done.
Well, I hope you never have to test that theory.
I'll drink to that. So, in the Greek...
But, I'm sorry, but one more thing, and of course the examples you just gave illustrate there's no essential quality of red that makes it aggressive or war-related or something. Like China, of course, great example, like red for them, this is a color of, like, luck and fortune and happiness. Of course, it's their national color of pride and so on. So for them, I don't think they would see red and think like war, like fighting, conflict.
And that's why the Chinese call it the fire star instead of naming it for any sort of war deity.
But for you, you feel that Greeks do have this association of red with war.
Well, there's two different schools of Greek astronomy going on around the same time. There's the theoretical and highly mathematical astronomy. We're talking concentric circles. Let's see. The very first 3D geometric model was of the solar system was a set of nested homocentric spheres that was proposed by Eudoxus of Cnidus and Callippus of Cyzicus, which is so fun to say. Calypsis of Cyzicus. I wanted, like, that's my pet name for, like...
for your computer or something.
Oh yeah.
It has some weird like lyrical quality. It seems like something like one of these like fast rappers or Eminem or something would like put into their song. It has this kind of like quick, rapid pace to it.
Ooh, I like that. Get on that, rappers. Quote Calippus of Cyzicus.
Calippus of Cyzicus. See, it's even hard for me to say.
Eudoxus of Cnidus.
There you go.
And their younger contemporary, Heraclides Ponticus, who was the first to suggest that Earth rotates on an axis.
Much less fun. I think that the new generation of Greek mathematical astronomers, nothing like the OGs. Yeah,
totally.
Their names
you need
are
to
way
stick
worse.
to the OGs.
Yeah, he's like the Mackenzie or the like Jackson or Kayla. Shoot, I almost said a real person's name we know, but like the Michaelas of his day or something. He has like one of these like really like really lame names that his parents are being super creative to make up. They thought it was so good, you know.
Oh my god. We're gonna mush two names together and it's gonna be awesome and nobody's gonna have the same name as my kid.
That was probably it. It was probably his mom's name and his dad's name, and they were like, let's just combine them.
Heraclides Ponticus, done. At the same time, speaking of OGs, we're talking about the 4th century BCE. We're talking Plato and Aristotle, y'all, who, aside from being theologians and philosophers, very famous natural philosophers, also dabbled in astronomy somewhat. But they were a lot less interested in the math of it, as they were in stealing the math of Eudoxus, and just saying, but what does it mean? In other words, they were really just stoned freshmen. So it's because Plato and Aristotle were doing this like at the same time as Eudoxus and Calippus, but it's a lot sexier to answer the why than it is to answer the how many miles is it and what is the speed of light and such on and so forth. Their questions that they proposed are why does the universe move like this, and ultimately they came up with it's the natural way of the gods. So it very, very naturally came to be a theological discussion rather than just a scientific one.
My thought about it, I don't know. I'm not a historian or anything, but I was thinking, like when it comes to military campaigns, probably there is like some time of year where it's best to like go attack somebody. Probably when the weather's pretty good, right? So I was thinking like maybe there's some connection where you can see Mars and you say, okay, there's that planet, it's a good time to go to war. And so then you make this association, and maybe even the association of like red with aggression comes from here.
So that is a very interesting thought. And it does absolutely tie into the next section of the world, which is Egypt. Egypt had a very theological understanding of the cosmos, very much up the Hindu alley, wherein the literal sky is the literal domain of the gods, and they're literally up there just hanging out and moving around in their spheres of influence.
Well, I mean,
now
you say that so condescendingly. Like, where do you think the gods are then, Hannah? If they're not in the sky, then where?
Obviously the gods are in your heart, Russ. That's where they've always been.
They're in my boo?
Ba-bump. So I apologize. I don't know where the gods are, but I have been in an airplane and I have not bumped into any.
Fair, but I mean, they do use radar and stuff, so like if there were a god there, they would definitely avoid it,
Well, it depends. The Egyptians had a ton of gods. The Greeks had a ton of gods. The Hindus had a ton of gods And the Mesopotamians had a butt ton of gods, so it must be very, very difficult to avoid. You've got to do a lot of swerving in the sky to try to avoid all of everybody's gods. But Egypt had a very practical use for their cosmology. Do you know whence comes the phrase "dog days of summer"?
Yes, more or less. Yeah, I've heard it.
So I've looked it up, and it is very much just a northern hemisphere thing. So the idea that it comes from ancient Egypt is, in fact, a fallacy.
Okay, so I'll tell you, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, because maybe I am.
Yeah.
I think there's some idea that it comes from Sirius, which is also called the dog star. But beyond that, I don't know. I mean, I just know from what I kind of half remember, that this star is somehow visible during August.
So, the dog days of summer is referring to this very late period of summer, toward the end of July, beginning of August, when the heat is incredibly oppressive in the northern hemisphere. Sirius is the dog star, of course. When she rises, is literal Sopdet, the goddess of the Nile River, in Egyptian lore. Her heliacal rise in the east before sunrise foretold the Nile flooding. So, the dog star is still, when it rises around the same time as the sun and in the same place, that is going to tell you when the Nile is going to start its flooding season, which is incredibly useful information if you're an ancient Egyptian. But here in the northern hemisphere, and here without Sopdet, it just basically means that we're entering this really oppressive phase. The Greeks actually used to think that because Sirius is the largest natural star and the hottest natural true star in the sky, and they could tell the difference between the stars and the planets, which it's very advanced, and most of us can't do it at a glance.
Yeah, I would say I can't really tell either. In fact, I'm not sure I've ever even seen a planet, to be perfectly honest.
I guarantee you have. Venus is often the brightest celestial body in the sky.
Oh, that's interesting.
But Sirius is the brightest natural star, so the Greeks actually thought that when it has that heliacal rise with the sun, that it's compounding heat. So you've got your sunlight and also this extra bit of star that's just beaming out some extra radiation, which of course is not how it works. But props for trying.
Yeah. You mentioned Venus. You know that Venus is, of course, named after the goddess Venus, a.k.a. Aphrodite. From this same root, Ven, we also get venereal, like a venereal disease, you know?
That's such a flattering, wow.
Yeah, it's such a flattering tribute, right?
Yeah. I want to be named after a venereal disease.
We also get the word venerate from this same root from Venus. Venerate,
oh, really?
it just kind of means like to kind of adore, like to have some really strong positive feeling for somebody. So the same way they have this kind of root back to like love in some sense or other, you know.
Do you think Dua Lipa venerates her partner?
I think she quite possibly does not have a partner because she isn't giving us a lot of details. You know, this is like a my girlfriend in Canada situation, you know.
I would absolutely tell people that I called my girlfriend in Canada Sugar Boo.
Yeah, and you were like renegading together, and people are like, "What does that mean?" And they're like, "You wouldn't understand. It's a Canada thing. It's just between me and my girlfriend. You guys, you wouldn't get it."
So that is the history of Mars. Mm-hmm. There's also a couple of really interesting myths about the Milky Way. Why do you suppose the word galaxy means milk?
Well, I mean, so I will give some off the wall idea, which is that I think sometimes we see like some weird references to milk in religious texts, like milk and honey or something like that. So if we have like, if the universe is like the home of the gods or something, I could see also it being like kind of a milky place, because milk is like this kind of heavenly drink, right?
So you're not wrong with a couple of them. Of course, the Egyptians believed that this was an actual pool of cow's milk.
That would smell so bad.
Yeah, from the cow goddess Bat. They think that the cow goddess Bat is just hanging around in the Milky Way in a pool of her own milk. Which I guess. But
you know how disgusting it would be to be in a pool of milk?
Oh, absolutely vile. Oh, God. I would rather be in a pool of cheese.
Yeah, for sure.
At least
maybe like
warm.
nacho cheese or something.
Heck yeah. So everybody has a separate myth about this, and the reason that it looks like this is, of course, because of the concentration of stars and our position in the galaxy. It just looks like a band of It looks like a band of stars, and stars white because of light, really. But not everybody saw it as milk. The Cherokee, for example, call the Milky Way where the dog ran, because the myth goes that there was a dog who stole cornmeal and got chased away from the village, and on his way up north he just dropped a lot of the cornmeal, and it created this trail up north.
Now, given the choice between this decadent cow just laying about in her own milk, I also feel like this cow god, she's definitely dealing with some kind of depression. I mean, this is not healthy, positive behavior here. So in some way I feel for her, but definitely the dog is way better. It's way more fun.
Oh, for sure. For sure it is. This one is one of my favorites that I learned. The Finno-Ugrics, so we're talking Finland, Lithuania, the Baltic region. They call the Milky Way the pathway of the birds. And the reason for that is they believed that the Milky Way was used in navigation as birds followed their migratory patterns south for winter. So the goddess in this case is a goddess named Lindu, who fell in love with the northern lights. She was courted by the sun and she was courted by the stars, but she was like, they're boring and predictable. And then she was courted by the pole star, and she's like, he's always in the same place and he never goes anywhere. But then she saw the northern lights, and they were so beautiful and so inconstant that she was like, I have got to marry the northern lights.
Yeah.
And by the way, Lindu, if you're wondering if she's a babe, she is basically a bird with the head of a lady.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get much hotter than that.
And the Milky Way is her wedding veil. And all of the stars, apparently, are her tears because, of course, the northern lights left her at the altar. Have you ever heard of the Chinese festival of Qixi?
No.
Qixi is basically the Chinese and Eastern Asian Valentine's Day. It commemorates a story in which a fairy came down from heaven to visit, just to hang out, and this dude sees her hanging out in his pond, decides to steal her dress, doesn't give it back until she agrees to marry him, which is how you courted people in ancient China. So obviously they fell in love. But her mother, the queen of the goddess of the western sky, said, no, you're not going to marry a mortal dude. So dragged her back up to heaven. And every year on the 7th day of the 7th month, all of the magpies on Earth fly up to heaven. And you see that Alastair and Vega are two stars close to the Milky Way. And it's said that on the 7th day of the 7th month, the Alastair and Vega come together on the same side of the Milky Way for just one night so that they can be together as husband and wife.
Wow, just like Dua Lipa and Dababy.
And let's talk about, you said that you wanted to discuss speed.
Yes. So we chose this song. Of course, we always choose a song first, and then we consider what can we talk about in that song. So it's kind of a leap of faith that there will be something interesting in what's actually songs that are by design usually pretty mundane, usually pretty broad, and not that strange or peculiar or interesting in a particular way. But I was thinking about when I first heard this song, like which was this year. I don't know about this having come out 3 years ago thing. I don't know what I was doing. Maybe I was sleeping that year or something. But somehow I totally missed the first coming. Like a comet, this Dua Lipa song, I guess, comes every 4 years.
These fleeting, like, falling stars of Dua Lipa's singles.
Exactly. That's the Milky Way. It's just all of Duolingo, my favorite pop star. It's all of Dua Lipa's records. She, interestingly enough, she still releases them on CD, but she just shoots them out into space in one of those Elon Musk cars that he's always driving out there. But so when I heard this song, I was thinking, for me at least, it's like she's singing pretty fast, especially the hook part. To me, this song, say what you will about it, it's like we say, it's not exactly the most fascinating song in the world. And I was trying really hard to listen to the instruments today. Instruments, even though they're all kind of digital or something, probably. They're okay. They're okay. I like a few of the things they do there. Yeah. But, this part where she just goes like, I'm levitating. And it kind of goes down the scale. It's such a good hook, actually. It really sticks with you. You really think of it later, And of course, it's a very fast line. And other lines in the song are spoken pretty quickly as well, or sung pretty quickly. I was just thinking when I listened to it, like, in order to perform this song, the person who chose it, Dua Lipa in this case, you have to be someone who can sing pretty fast. It's like, is music getting harder to sing? I don't know. So I wanted to look into what is called speech tempo. It's just the rate at which we speak. And I was just curious, is there a trend here? Are songs getting faster? Are people talking getting faster? And there's something there, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Like, just to start with the topic of music, songs are more or less the same length. They're about usually between 2 and 4 minutes. But the number of words in a typical pop song have increased dramatically.
Since when?
In the 1960s, the number of words in a song tended to be somewhere between 150, 200. Now the average number of words in a song is 436.
Oh, wow. That's a huge jump.
Yeah, so huge jump for sure. This song itself, Levitating, before the Dababy edition, it was 513 words. With Dababy, it is 631 words. So pretty lengthy. Not necessarily the most lengthy song in the world, but it's up there. Some notable songs in recent time, of course, famously the Eminem song "Rap God," very wordy song. This song was
recent.
North of 1,000 words.
Wow!
And so, it seems like this is definitely a trend that we can identify and say, yes, it's happening. Why is it happening? Of course, always hard to really say what's the cause for something.
If Eminem's song "Rap God" has how many words in it?
Over 1,000.
Can we say that a picture is worth an Eminem's "Rap God" album?
Yeah, sure. A picture is worth one Eminem song. Yeah. Yeah, I
Or
find it to be true.
2 Dua Lipa songs.
Yeah, some conversion rate we can come up with here.
Inflation has it's definitely a booming market.
Yeah, absolutely.
Songs are worth a lot more words than they used to be, I tell you what.
That's absolutely true. Why are songs getting faster? One thing seems to be the influence of hip-hop music. Hip-hop, of course, just generally is wordier. Because it's less reliant on like a chorus, on repeated lines, and more reliant on just continuing to talk. And of course also rapping a bit fast seems to be something that shows that you're good at it. Oftentimes, I mean, there are rappers that rap pretty slow, but most rappers at least like to demonstrate that they can rap at a high rate.
Now, is that a prestige thing, or is that just a talent thing? Look at how fast my tongue can move.
Yeah, I think in some sense it's like spectacle, right? It's like showing your... it's similar to in painting how like in these classic still lifes they would always paint something reflective so that they could show that they could put an accurate reflection of something across like a curved surface or something. It's just like a demonstration of your skill and talent,
It's a flex.
Yeah, sure. It reflects. Yeah. It reflects your skill and talent. And I think now we're starting to see. Of course, first we saw kind of a trend of more hip hop like making its way into pop music as like the feature, as Dababy is here, not Lil Baby. Much better rapper, Lil Baby. But now we start to see, in my opinion at least, kind of a merger of singing and rapping. We see rappers like Roddy Ricch, Amore with that Quicksand song. That
Lizzo!
Yeah, Lizzo kind of singing in her rapping as well. Yeah, I would say there's a... You can make that argument as well. There's this like Track Star song that's pretty popular now that seems to be in that vein as well. And so I think because of that, like I think even the kind of more singing pop singers are starting to adopt some of these same sounds, where it's like you're saying a lot, you're saying it kind of fast, and you're making a very wordy song.
So is that because we have more to say and less time to say it, or is it because 1960s songs so much was taboo that we just didn't have room to say anything without getting canceled by the government?
Well, again, of course it's always hard to say why, but one possibility is that there's just more content, right? There's more things competing, there's more just more sounds out there, more people expressing themselves, and so songs are just kind of becoming wordier to try to like dominate, you could say, to try to dominate the space in that way. Like bringing it around to just speaking in general. One thing that people have noticed is that radio broadcasters, radio speakers tend to be like the youngest child in a pretty big family, because typically if you are someone who has a big family, there's lots of people talking, you have to really try harder to like make space for yourself to express yourself. And so it leads to this situation where you're very fast to start talking, and you tend not to leave pauses because you don't want someone else to take the floor back, so to speak.
I have had a little sister, and when they were growing up, they very much had that attitude of, if I stop talking, somebody is going to jump in, and then I won't be able, nobody will look at me anymore. Do you think that that's like a common thing with entertainers?
I think it takes all kinds. I think in any profession there's lots of different ways to be good at it, and I always hate these kinds of like these ideas that you have to be this in order to be successful at something, But I think there is an argument to be made that just in a sociological sense, the kind of sheer multitude of signals that are out there, let's say, it tends to influence the people speaking, how they put their signal into the world, what they do in that way. One of the things that kind of fast speakers tend to do is not leave much of a pause, right? And actually, linguists studying speech and fast speech tempo, we can call it, have found that actually this is pretty much the only difference. Like if you were to say a word like potato, right? Generally, people say this at the same rate. Even the people who are perceived to be speaking quickly, they say the word more or less the same. It's just a matter of the space between words, how often you stop to think, how often you say or so. Actually, for this reason, perception actually plays a big part in how fast we think people are talking. Because actually, for the most part, we talk at more or less the same rate. Just for your information, the normal speaking speed is about 4 or 5 syllables per second, or between 100 and 130 words per minute. In
the American lexicon, I'm sure it varies by country.
It does, absolutely. And more the words more often than the syllables, but there is a lot of variety between different languages. So the world's fastest language is, or I would say the world's fastest of the famous or most well-known languages. Would you like to guess what it is?
The fastest of the known languages?
Of the kind of popular, or let's say like popularly known languages.
Is it popular?
Is it what?
Is it is it something that I would have a guess at? I would Vietnamese.
You're fairly close. It's actually Japanese. This is one of the fastest languages in the world.
That's very interesting because their national anthem, I wrote an article on it back during the 2012 Olympics. Their national anthem is so slow. It's basically a dirge.
Yeah, but I think all national anthems, save perhaps "O Canada," are just like an exercise in like a stoic patience and perseverance. Because I don't know who has a good national anthem really. It's just something you suffer through to show how patriotic you are.
Yes, whoever has the most patience and doesn't yawn. And I do think that that's very much the Japanese take on it. It's an exercise in patience. Whoever can stand at the podium for the longest without yawning gets the medal.
You only have to play. It's whoever makes the
and
movie.
It's weird. It's like 14 words. It's like a haiku. It's and it's just so slow. But I'm sorry, I digress.
Yeah, sure.
Happy Olympics that nobody's watching.
So Japanese, very, very fast language. Spanish, very, very fast language as well, which I was surprised. I always thought, Spanish just sounds fast because you don't understand it, but actually it turns out it is quite a fast language. Both of these languages are about 7.8 syllables per second, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so this is, of course, much higher than...
I'm not sure if you did this. I'm not sure if you did this research, but is that Spanish, Spanish, or Mexican Spanish, or Colombian Spanish, or I'm sure the dialect changes.
Right. So this is the average for all Spanish speakers.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure there's some difference, and there is some interesting differences that we'll talk about in a minute between some other languages. But at least for Spanish, nothing terribly significant. So English, around 4 syllables per second. Japanese and Spanish, both nearly 8. So almost double what English.
Wow. Wow. There must be some really awesome Japanese rappers.
Yeah, there are some pretty good ones, I would say. And so the slowest of all of the, let's say, major languages, we can call them, no offense intended, Mandarin Chinese. Mandarin Chinese, similar to English in its speed.
That makes a lot of sense because you have to account for the tones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And so English also a roughly equally slow language, also one of the slowest languages. It's definitely on the bottom of the scale with languages like Japanese, Spanish, French, and Italian. You were right. Italian, very fast language, are here on the top of the scale.
Mm-hmm.
So
mine is good anything to go by for sure.
So, yeah, for sure. So an interesting thing, though, is that even though the speed changes, speed of how many words you say or speed of how many syllables you say in a particular amount of time, generally speaking, the information you convey, the content transference rate is pretty much universal. No matter what language you're speaking, even from one person to another in the same language, generally speaking, there's a constant, consistent rate of information transfer. What is that rate? Well, of course, it's hard to say because, what do you measure as information? But all I can say is that scientists generally agree that the rate of information being conveyed is more or less the same. So, as you mentioned, a tonal language like Chinese, of course, they are conveying much more in each syllable. So therefore they need to slow down, partially for the comprehension of the listener, partially for the generating the language of the speaker. How fast can they process what they need to say?
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting because obviously English is not exactly a tonal language. I mean, we have a tone shift for like a
but
question.
At the same time, it's not exactly atonal.
Yeah, true. And but English, of course, the grammar is pretty complex. Some people claim that it is the largest lexicon, like the largest amount of different words in one language. So the idea is that English is just kind of a complicated language to think your way through what you're trying to say and to say it. So for that reason, the language is a bit slow. But again, that doesn't mean it's an inefficient language. You're still conveying about the same amount of information. You just do it at
I would in fact argue that it's
rate.
more efficient because you're conveying the same amount of information with fewer syllables.
On the other hand, maybe a language with fewer words is the more efficient language because you need fewer words to convey the same message. I mean, either way, you're conveying it at the same speed. You just happen to be using more syllables, but your vocabulary overall is smaller, so in some way maybe that's
at one
efficient.
point I would love to discuss Newspeak with you and as a linguistic phenomenon.
Well, given that there are no pop songs written in Newspeak, I don't think it will ever come out. It'd be quite the reach.
Are pop songs only written in Newspeak? Think about it.
Probably not, but possibly if we find some song that just so happens to only use words that are in the George Orwell lexicon there, then we could probably talk about it. But it seems pretty unlikely. So then we're in this position where we have the faster you go, the less complex your words can be. And in one language, this happens as well. So in English, people who talk slower tend to use bigger words, or vice versa. People who are using big words, rare words, more nuanced words, these people are usually talking at a slower rate. People who speed up their speech, whether they're doing it intentionally for one time or whether they always talk faster, they tend to use less complicated words.
Oh. Well, that makes sense.
Just an aside, as far as states go, of course, some states, some regions of the United States talk faster or slower than others. Do you have any idea about which parts of the country are the fastest speaker, which part are the slower speakers?
Well, I have some inkling. I have spoken to several people in the Deep South, and it has been excruciating. They talk at such a slow level because I think they have to. Because if you ever talk to somebody in with a strong Georgia accent, unless they severely slow it down, it does not sound like English.
Well, I'm sure they understand each other.
I'm sure they can understand each other, but I have not been privy to those conversations.
I remember when I was a child, a kid moved to my block from California, and I was like, my head exploded by how fast he was speaking, and I really had to make him repeat things he said. These days, I don't know. It's like my ability to comprehend has gotten better. I don't think I've ever encountered someone recently where I couldn't understand them because they were speaking so quickly, you know.
I think when people from the South talk real fast, I can't understand them.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Michiganders, I know that I've discussed it in the BTS episode, but we do tend to skip syllables, a lot of syllables at a time. So I don't know if that's efficient or inefficient, or if that goes toward our speed or not, or if we're being graded on a curve. I would say that New Yorkers would probably speak pretty fast.
Yeah, that's certainly the stereotype. And so on the slowest, you're absolutely right. All of these slowest states are southern states. North Carolina is number one slowest. Alabama is next. South Carolina is next. My home state of Louisiana is next, and Mississippi is number 5. So no surprise there. They are all southern states.
That is no surprise at all.
Now, again, that doesn't mean that they are slow mentally. It doesn't mean that they are transmitting less information in the same time. In fact, seems to be a bit like the opposite, like the information they're conveying maybe is more complex, at least in each word it's more complex. So fastest states, on the other hand, it's actually, nothing that you would guess, nothing very telling or indicative of trends. So Oregon, for some reason, this is at the top of the list. So congratulations, Oregon. Oddly, I don't know of any rappers.
Fastest talkers in the West.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, fastest mouth in the West. I don't know of any rappers from Oregon, so oddly enough, they haven't seemed to parlay that into musical fame, so far as I know. And after that, we have Minnesota, Massachusetts, Kansas, and Iowa. So maybe mostly Midwestern, save Massachusetts. Who knows why?
Oh, Massachusetts, I can imagine. I have met a couple of people from Massachusetts, and they don't seem to have any patience for anything.
Yeah, exactly right. Now,
welcome to Pop Etymology, where we discuss completely unfounded stereotypes about U.S. states.
Yeah, and we say this, we claim that somebody else said them so that we don't get in trouble. What people don't really know is we made up all of this research in order to malign our enemies.
Oh, you'll know if I made it up because it'll be about Ohio. Fuck Ohio. Oh no, I mean darn Ohio. Darn Ohio.
Everybody hates Ohio. I don't know what they did. But is it a Michigan thing? Does Michigan hate Ohio?
Michigan hates Ohio. It's because Ohio's the only state that we're technically better than.
It's the only state that you're better than?
Yeah. Like on the list of states, we're hovering around 49. It's a beautiful place. I love my state. I do. I absolutely love living here. On the other hand, it's a fudging mess.
Yeah, it's like, so Ohio is Michigan's Mississippi, because Louisiana is always one better than Mississippi, while we're both like at the bottom of every list,
Oh, man. You know what Ohio did when they instituted a mask mandate? They said, okay, let's go home and wear our masks, I guess. I hate it, but I guess. You know what we did in Michigan? We tried to kidnap the governor, Russ. That's
so
not
which
better.
One's worse in
That's
that
not
situation?
more functional.
Yeah. So, and this discussion about like speaking speed versus message that's conveyed, right? How much information can you get across? So there's this concept called prosody, and this is the idea of what is communicated outside of the words and their definitions themselves. Mm-hmm. So this can be things like the intonation, the stress, the speed of what you're saying,
facial
whether
features. emotions, any kind of physical cues, surely.
Yes, exactly. But again, so we have to be a little clear. This does not go into body language. These are still things that you're doing with your mouth and your voice. These are not like whether your arms are crossed or something, you know. And so, if you are speaking faster, or if you're singing faster, of course there's less that you can convey, right? Because you're moving faster. For one thing, it's just physically harder to make such complex sounds the faster you're saying them. And I think if you listen to some modern rap songs or even modern pop songs that are particularly fast, you can notice this. They're not the most emotional songs in the world, and their voice seems a bit monotone, and the stress patterns are not so much there, and I think even the accent tends to go away a little bit unless it's an extremely strong accent, you know. So for me, I think there's an interesting thing happening there where if speech is in fact speeding up, as some people claim it is, that means that the nuance of the message must be going down.
Right.
Okay. And so, like, one thing, as far as in music, like, how does that affect these songs? Well, we find that actually for a up-tempo, positive, happy song, this is generally a good thing, actually, as far as people listening. Do they enjoy it? Does it have the desired effect? Whatever. They find that the more complexity that you put into the lyrics, what you're saying, how it's said, the less happy people feel about it, right? If they're rating the happiness of the song, how happy the song seems to be for them, the less happy it is. The more complex the message is, right?
So, for example, the chorus, glitter in the skies, glitter in my eyes, glitter any place I like. That seems incredibly simple. Would that fit with the formula for happy song?
Yeah, sure, exactly. And, like, to me, like, I think I probably had to listen to the song at least 5 times before I even was able to say, okay, this song is about this, or they're saying this. You know, it's like one of those things, it just kind of washes over you. You don't feel like she's talking about anything in particular at all, you know. I could talk much more about that, but let's go ahead and move on to the Eurovision song this week. So, Hannah, what song did you pick, and what song did we allegedly listen to and do some research about this time?
Okay, obviously I picked it this time because you I believe was last time the time before that was we did the German song, which you were like, oh, I don't have to listen to this. So this time we did a song that got a lot of hype this year for Eurovision. We're doing Fallen Angel by Tix, which was Norway's entry.
The funny thing about this song is, you know, we were talking last time about how, generally speaking, the music video or the performance is a part of it, and without it, the song isn't really anything very interesting or enjoyable. But I think this is the first song where the music video actually made it worse. like, it's such an off-putting visual to watch. And without it, I thought, okay, this song, it's kind of nice. It has kind of like some power to it. It's kind of enjoyable to listen to. And then the video is just so odd.
So I did want to talk about, yes, okay, got it. I did want to talk about that as well, because there are 2 different versions that you frequently see of this song, and both of them feature Tix in his iconic outfit, which is like a 20-foot long white fur coat, golden shirt, silver pants, golden chains. He's wearing a headband that's bedazzled with the name Tix, really large sunglasses, he basically looks like...
He's like He's like if Guns N' Roses had a guardian angel that was like watching over them.
Or if Guns N' Roses had a teenage son who designed an anime OC.
Yeah. But now, you use that word iconic as if this is something we all know and love.
He's definitely trying to make it iconic, and I can actually respect that. So, there are two different versions of that kind of go along with this. And did I mention that he also has an enormous pair of actually feathered white wings?
Yeah, and yet they're enormous, and yet they're also a bit small. I mean, there's something about them where even though they're quite big, you feel as if couldn't they have gone just a bit bigger? And then of course they're shedding feathers like everywhere. You know.
Oh yeah. That's not conducive to flying when you're shedding feathers everywhere, and you're right. The wings are not. They're clearly not big enough to bear the weight of his 20-foot fur coat.
Yeah, exactly right.
So there's two different versions that you frequently see. There's the performed version, and then there is the music video. I only saw the performed version before I did the research into this, and the performance is ridiculous. It's Tix himself standing on a pedestal, surrounded by 6 super buff people in black latex suits with horns and black wings, dressed as devils, and they each have a chain on him. And when he says that I'm a fallen angel, the hot demons all jump around and dance, and it's a spectacle, and it looks absolutely ridiculous. And it's also exactly what I used to, as a 12-year-old girl, listen to in my room and cry to about my anime boyfriend.
You would listen what? You would imagine this in your head? This is like you're saying like the dream world that you existed in was essentially this music video? Is that what you're trying to say to me now?
I'm saying if today I was a 12-year-old girl and I had an anime boyfriend, and if I was a 12-year-old girl today, I would definitely have an anime boyfriend, because all 12-year-old girls have to go through that phase.
Well, you're saying hypothetically. I thought you were saying somehow when you were 12 you had some premonition of this music video that you would see.
I feel like I have. It's really familiar. It's like taking all of the tropes that...
Yeah, it's somehow like Jungian, you know, these kind of like psychological archetypes, you know?
Yes.
I think we all, in some way, we all dream of Tix. Is that his name? Tix?
Tix? Yeah. And his name is actually... I don't know if you caught on to the music video, but the music video is his backstory.
No, I did not give it that deep of a read. I was not trying to crack the code of this.
It was not. Video. It was not a code. It was very much he ignored the girl basically for the entirety of the song. Everything that he's drawing is Tix as a grown up, and at the end. I'm skipping ahead of myself a little bit, but suffice it to say, the music video that he put out documents the story of a little boy who has facial tics and neurological tics, and he gets bullied about it by other kids at school, to the point where the other kids at school beat him up and write the word tics, T-I-C-K-S, across his forehead. And he goes home and he tries to rub it off, and instead he's like, I will cover it with the coolest thing ever, a white headband, and I will write Tix across it.
Well, that's way more information than I require, and I'm glad they didn't win. So, we're running a bit short on time, in that we're running very, very long on time. So let me give you a few words from Norwegian, because of course the song is from Norway. And I just want you to tell me, like, so these are of course Norwegian words that you researched. Thank you very much. These are words that we don't exactly have a translation for it in English, and I just want to talk about, is it really such a different word, and is it a useful word, right? Something we could really use in the other languages.
Something that we can bring over here.
Okay, so forgive my bad pronunciation, but the first one is utapilts, and this is a word for outdoor drinking, like going outside to drink beer, right? And
I like that.
Hey, what do you think? Is it untranslatable? Is there not something like this in English?
It's not as much a cultural thing. It's not something that we usually actually even do.
I think maybe tailgating is essentially this.
Tailgating has a very sporty thing to it. You never just go out. Hey, Russ, I know neither of us watch baseball, but you want to go tailgate?
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't invite anybody. Or if somebody invited me to tailgate, I think I would say no, thank you. But if someone invited me to utapilts, yeah, I think I would probably do it. Would you go?
Yeah,
utapilts?
let's have an utapilts.
I mean, excusing the fact that, or disregarding the fact that weather is almost always terribly uncomfortable and not fun to be in. Yeah, maybe I would.
If you ever had a rare day in Scandinavia where the sun is shining and the snow is just barely melted, then you can have an utapilts.
Yeah, definitely. How about this word kush? This is the word for something like coziness. Anything that makes you feel like cozy, or like this little feeling of joy or warmth or whatever in your life.
So I absolutely am in love with the concept of hygge, which is the Danish word for kush.
Sure, yeah. This somehow got some kind of fame, like for some weird random reason, right? It's suddenly became like a subject of like BuzzFeed articles and such. You know?
I literally have. I know that you were just here last week. I literally have the Beginner's Guide to Hygge hanging at my bookshelf on the wall. So
it sounds like it sounds like a word that's like stuck with us from caveman days, perhaps.
I want it to stick with us. I love kush. I love hygge. Let's make it happen.
For me, no. It's clearly the word cozy. It even looks like the word cozy. We have this word. There's no big difference in the meaning. I say this is nonsense. Both of those words just mean cozy. And there's no special...
I would argue that kush is a noun and cozy is an adjective.
So we don't
have a
coziness.
noun form of cozy.
Coziness.
That's...
Wipe my hand. What about oofda? This is a phrase used to express sensory overload from surprise, bafflement, or even relief, exhaustion, etc. What do you think? Useful word? Translatable word?
I have met a lot of people from Minnesota who actually say "ufta," like as a thing, and it's definitely a Scandinavian immigrant thing. Minnesotans say "ufta" all the time, and honestly, some of it we say "oof," big oof. We say
we say big oof. Yeah, you think it comes from this? It very well could.
I think that ufta and oof are definitely linguistically linked.
Yeah, sure.
So I don't even know if it's necessary to have ufta when we've got oof.
I think you're right. And I think, of course, oof is a little bit negative usually. This word seems like it doesn't necessarily have to be. But certainly we have a word like wow, which is essentially serves the purpose.
And we can also do the Midwestern ope.
Yeah. Sure. I don't think that quite means the same thing, but it certainly
does mean the same thing. Ope means whatever you want it to mean, Russell.
So, like, if you saw the Northern Lights, you would say ope.
I certainly wouldn't say ufta. If I saw the Northern Lights, I would be like, babe. And then it would, of course, leave me at the altar, and I would cry.
Yeah. Best season of Bachelorette yet.
Mm-hmm.
So, dear listeners, if anything makes you say oofda related to linguistics or music, if you have something to add, you can email us at popetymology@gmail.com. You can also
tell us
find
what the sexiest celestial body is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, tell us which one you find the sexiest. Fan art is accepted, but we will not actually look at it. Um, we will immediately throw it in the trash, but we're not going to try to oppress your God-given right to make fan art.
Oh, no. Okay, send to me. You don't have to send to Russ, but send to me like your anime OCs of your sexy celestial bodies.
Yeah, fair. Send them all to Hannah. Hannah's half of the one email that we share, popetymology@gmail.com. As we said at the top, you can find us on the web at popetymology.com. Read some articles there. You can comment as well, I'm sure. Otherwise, thanks everybody for listening. Have a good night.